If you're a hardcore sports fanatic, you're in the right place. Nathan Weller is ready to dish out the hard-hitting sports talk that you love. We're talking everything from NFL and AFL to the NBA, NHL, and even cricket. This is the Real Deal Sports Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Real Deal Sports Podcast. I have another busy episode for you today. Since we are halfway through the NFL season, I'll be taking a look at the current standings in the NFL. I'll also be going through some NBA news and looking at some UFC news as well, predominantly surrounding around the Luke Rockhold injury and Ronda Rousey contemplating retirement. I will also look at some AFL news, so let's get started with the NFL, shall we? In the AFC East, we have the New England Patriots leading the division with a 7-1 record. It's hard to believe that the Patriots are 7-1 despite Brady missing the first 4 games of the regular season. It just shows how much class this organisation has and how much they play for each other. Second, we have the Buffalo Bills with a 4-4 record. All the playoff talk for the Bills seem to have stopped following consecutive losses, and they could be facing a third loss with a tough game at Seattle versus the Seahawks. Miami comes in third with a 3-4 record. Coming out of the bye, the Dolphins have a soft 5 weeks coming up. Maybe they can get on a roll from there, but Tannehill hasn't been playing that great, so not too sure. And last in the division, we have the New York Jets. Well, nothing seems to come easy for the New York Jets, and the upcoming game against the Dolphins will be no different. Over to the AFC North now, where the Pittsburgh Steelers lead the division with a 4-3 record. Now, the Steelers might be getting back their quarterback Ben Roethlisberger not long after the bye, which will come as welcome news for Steelers fans, because without Roethlisberger, the Steelers are pretty ordinary. Second in the division are the Cincinnati Bengals with a 3-4-1 record. Now, the Bengals' defense used to be the strength and the talking point of this team, but during the season, the defense hasn't been that good. Baltimore is third in the division with a 3-4 record. Baltimore have lost their last 4 games before the bye. They aren't playing great football, and hopefully for the Ravens fans, they can turn it around soon. And last in the AFC North is the Cleveland Browns with an 0-8 record. Now, to their credit, the Browns fight. They fight until the end every week. Surely that will give them a win eventually. Over to the AFC South now, where the Houston Texans lead the division with a 5-3 record. They head to the bye in first place in the division. They're undefeated at home, but there are still question marks over Houston and their quarterback, Brock Osweiler. Tennessee Titans are second with a 4-4 record. The Titans' smash-mouth style still has them in playoff contention. Next is the Indianapolis Colts with 3-5. The Colts haven't had any chance to build any momentum this season. They have a lot of holes through their rosters. That's all I have to say. Jacksonville Jaguars are last in the AFC South. Now, will firing their offensive coordinator, Gus Olsen, help them going forward? I don't know. Their season's practically over, except barring a miracle, but it's done for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over to the AFC West now, where the Oakland Raiders lead the division with a 6-2 record. Derek Carr, he's been special and great up until this point in the season. He was special against Tampa Bay, and he'll look to replicate that form for the rest of the season. Denver Broncos are 6-2 as well. Let's be honest, it must be nice to have a defense that not only defends, but also scores. Denver seem to be playoff bound again. Kansas City are third in the division with 5-2. After their bye, Kansas City are 3-0. Andy Reid has used that break to turn it around for the Chiefs. And last in the division is the San Diego Chargers. Now, many consider the Chargers to be the best 3-5 team. However, in a tough division, I don't think that will be enough to help them to the playoffs. Having a look at the NFC East now, where astoundingly, the Dallas Cowboys lead the division with a 6-1 record. At 6-1, you'd have to say this is now Dak Prescott's team, and the Tony Romo era at the Dallas Cowboys is over. Now, Jerry West still has people thinking that Tony Romo will come back, and to be honest, if Romo starts for Dallas again, I'll be astounded. But as some people say, Dallas are an accident waiting to happen. Well, going by the recent form, you'd have to agree with that. But as I said, I'll be amazed if Romo starts for Dallas again. Second in the division is the New York Giants, 4-3 record. At 4-3, you wouldn't put them out of contention in the NFC East. They haven't played their best footy during the first half of the season though, so they'll need to fix that if they want to win the NFC East. Third is the Philadelphia Eagles, also at 4-3. Rookie quarterback Carson Wentz has been a revelation. Despite a lack of offensive weapons, Wentz has led the Eagles to 4-3. However, it appears Philly has stalled and they'll need to regenerate their offense to gain their momentum again. And last, amazingly, in the division is the Washington Redskins with a 4-3-1 record. Despite having a successful season last year, Washington's been inconsistent this season, and that's all that needs to be said about them. Over to the NFC North now, where the Minnesota Vikings lead the division with a 5-2 record. Now, as we know, Minnesota didn't have a great start to the season with injuries to Adrian Peterson and their quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. Now, they did go out and get former Philadelphia quarterback Sam Bradford. However, the Minnesota offensive line is killing this team, and they can't protect their quarterback. The Vikings will hope to fix that after a couple of bad losses consecutively. Green Bay Packers are second with a 4-3 record. Green Bay have had a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the ball, but it appears the Packers offense started to click into gear despite a loss against the Falcons. Detroit Lions are 4-4. All the momentum Detroit had built up came crashing down after the loss to the Texans, and they will look to regain that momentum against the Vikings. And last in the division, I can't say with any surprise, is the Chicago Bears, 2-6. They had a nice win against the Vikings. Now, will that performance keep the Cutler haters quiet for now? I doubt it, but he did look impressive against the Vikings. Swinging things over to the NFC South now, where the Atlanta Falcons lead the division with a 5-3 record. Falcons were able to get back on the winning board after beating Green Bay, led by their quarterback Matt Ryan, who quite frankly could be the MVP this season. He's had an amazing year for the Falcons. Second in the division is Tampa Bay with 3-4. It appears that Tampa Bay just don't have the talent on defense to compete with everyone every week, which is a shame because I like their quarterback Jameis Winston. Their defense is pretty poor. Third is the New Orleans Saints, also at 3-4. Now, their wide receivers, Brandon Cooks and Willie Snead, have been live wire for the Saints offense. However, the Saints defense hasn't been great. I wouldn't say trash, but they haven't been great. And also, amazingly, the Carolina Panthers come last in the division with 2-5. Now, the Carolina that beat Arizona this past week was the Carolina we were expected to see all season. Maybe this will be a launching pad to turn their season around. But for me, I think they've left it a bit too late, and I don't see them making the playoffs this year. And last but certainly not least, the NFC West, where the Seattle Seahawks lead the division with a 4-2-1 record. Seattle just can't get their offense going. They've only managed one offensive touchdown over the past 2 games, which is pretty poor. But they do have the Legion of Boom, and they are quite strong on defense, so that could help them a bit. Second in the division is the Arizona Cardinals, with a 3-4-1 record. Now, what has happened to this team? Definitely not the same team as last year. They aren't playing great football, but they aren't playing terrible football either. But they head to the bye 3-4-1, Third in the division is the Los Angeles Rams with a 3-4 record. Will they ever make a change at the quarterback position? They have Jared Goff sitting there. Throw him in! But now, let's be honest, I'm not placing all the blame on Case Keenum, but Jared Goff is the number 1 draft pick. Throw him in. He is your future. Start playing him now, Los Angeles. Start him now. And last but not least, San Francisco 49ers. 1-6. Well, looks like the 49ers are playing for the future. But how many of these current players will be a part of that future? On to some NBA news now. During the week, Ray Allen announced his retirement from the NBA. Allen had spent 18 years in the league, playing for Milwaukee, Seattle, Boston, and Miami. Allen averaged 18.9 points in 1,300 regular season games. Allen also appeared in 10 All-Star games. Allen won 2 championships, one with Boston and another with Miami. Now, Allen hadn't played since the 2013-14 season. However, there were some rumors that he could be eyeing a comeback as a player coming off the bench for those who needed 3-point shooting. Those rumors have now been put to rest. Allen's career will be defined by his 2 championships and being one of the greatest 3-point shooters of all time. Allen will also be forever remembered for his game-tying 3-pointer in the Game 6 of the 2013 NBA Finals. As we all know, that kept Miami Heat alive, and Miami went on to win the series in Game 7. Now, before I move on, I just want to congratulate the Chicago Cubs for winning the World Series. During the series, the Cleveland Indians led the Cubs 3-1. However, the Cubs were able to force a Game 7. Chicago defeated Cleveland 8-7 in a 10-innings game. Chicago ended its drought, winning its first World Championships in 1908. That's a long time. Ironically, Cleveland now have the longest drought. They have not won the World Series since 1948. So, once again, well done Chicago, you deserve it. On to some UFC news. Melbourne's UFC Fight Night 101 has lost its main event, with Luke Rockhold withdrawn from the event due to injury. A UFC official confirmed Rockhold, who was due to headline against Souza, will miss the event due to a rumoured sprained ACL in his left knee. Now, there is no exact timeline for Luke Rockhold's return to the octagon. However, he did take to social media to comment on his injury. Quote, "Right now, there is nothing I want more than to return back to the cage and do what I love most. Unfortunately, due to my injury in my left knee, I had to withdraw from the fight. I apologize to UFC, to Souza, and most importantly, the fans. I will be back better than ever in pursuit of the belt." It's a nice little comment there from Rockhold. However, it is rumoured that the co-main event, Robert Whittaker versus Derek Brunson, could be bumped up to the main event if Souza is to be removed from the card. Sticking with UFC, Ronda Rousey's career is almost at an end. During her latest appearance on Ellen, the former women's bantamweight champion confirmed that her career is winding down, and her fight with Amanda Nunes at UFC 207 will be one of the last times she steps foot in the octagon. When asked how much time she has left in mixed martial arts, Rousey replied, "Not long, I'm wrapping it up." Rousey continued to say, "This is definitely one of my last fights, so everybody better come watch because the show isn't going to be around forever." Now, Rousey's last fight was back at UFC 193 at Melbourne, Australia, where she suffered a loss at the hands of Holly Holm. It was recently rumoured that Stephanie McMahon has contacted Rousey to join the WWE after she is finished in UFC. Ronda Rousey has done work with WWE in the past, being a part of a segment with The Rock, Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon at WrestleMania 31. Now, how will Rousey be remembered within the UFC after her career is finished? In my opinion, she will go down as one of the biggest stars, not only in the UFC, but in women's sport. She has opened the door for women in sport to be relevant again, and she belongs up there with the likes of Serena Williams, Maria Sharapova, Billie Jean King, and Mia Hamm. Now, I understand that Rousey isn't everyone's cup of tea, and she is controversial, but I liked her. I liked her from the start at Strikeforce up until now. People say she did get arrogant, cocky, and that's why she lost. Other people say she tried to do too much within the UFC. She had her fights, and she also had movies, TV appearances, and that she didn't really take the career seriously. But I disagree with all that. I think she's been amazing for not only the UFC, but for women's sport in general. I'm going to finish up today's episode with a bit of AFL news from different clubs, bits and pieces I found during the week. North Melbourne legend Brent Harvey will return to the club next year in a mentoring role and capacity. He will work with the father-son prospects and the next generation, taking him under the wing. Jared Rivers will coach Collingwood's VFL side in 2017. The former Melbourne and Geelong backman was appointed as a Collingwood development coach in 2015. Essendon has re-signed former top-up players James Kelly and Matt Dee to new deals. Kelly has signed for a 1-year extension, while Dee has signed on with the Essendon for 2 years. And Richmond star Jack Riewoldt will likely be managed through the pre-season after going an ankle reconstruction, and he's recently just had surgery on his little right finger during the off-season. So don't look for him to have too much pre-season work. I don't think he'll appear in the NAB Cup, but Richmond would love to have him back fit and firing, ready for round 1. And that's all for today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Covered NFL, NBA, UFC, mentioned the Cubs, bit of AFL news in there. So, yeah, as always, hope you enjoy it, and I'm always feel free to debate with anything I said. Wait, having said that, I do like talking, debating with you guys, but if you're going to do it, can you please have some facts to your arguments? Now, I did get a message from, obviously, she was a very passionate Hawthorn fan, and she didn't like my review of the Hawthorn trade period. I think I gave him a C+, which I think was fair. And then I asked her why she disagreed, and she just said, I'm wrong. I'm like, okay, how am I wrong? She just said, you're wrong. We got in O'Meara and Mitchell. I'm like, yeah, okay. And you also lost Mitchell, you lost Lewis, you gave up pick 10. I don't think you have a second round pick next year or a first round pick. And if you look at the O'Meara deal, it got down to the last 10 minutes. And then I never heard back from them. But, as I said, just if you're going to try and argue, have a bit of beef to the argument and we'll be fine. Going forward, the next episode will be on the mock draft. I'm not sure how long it's going to go. I think I might just do the top 20 to 25 picks. I'm not going to go all the way through to round 6 or 7, wherever it goes to. But as always, it's been a pleasure. I hope you enjoy listening. This has been the Real Deal Sports Podcast. Oh, and one more thing. I might be switching over to YouTube just to expand this whole thing a bit more. So I'll be running both a SoundCloud and YouTube account. So feel free, when I've got that up and going, please give that a subscribe, like, share, just to help me get this as big as popular as I can. I just want to get this bigger for everyone, and hopefully it does well. So once again, thank you for listening and enjoy this episode of the podcast.